I did a video last year on the Dacia Spring, which is sold in Europe and it's actually very like the Renault City. It's imported from China, so it's a Chinese EV sold from Renault and Dacia. Fantastic car. People really love it when they've got them. All over the internet, reviews saying that people really love it. But again, the one thing that bothers me has been done to this car. It's very annoying, and I can't help but think that this has possibly been done kind of like an engineered fault so that the car doesn't really last very long. Very, very annoying. Let's go into that. So it doesn't have to be this way, I don't think. It's just a thing that's because, the modern thing that's going on all over the world. BYD showed us recently that this is not very expensive to offer as an option. So even if you wanted to give it as an option, that would be a good idea, I think. Feel free to pause this video and go and get a quick cup of tea or a coffee or something like that, because it may be a bit longer than usual, but not too long. Very, very interesting, but just a little bit long. So it's a really important video. Enjoy. Before I get into it, I'm Ben Alexander, and I make EV news videos about all the latest news from all over the world. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really appreciate your time. Please consider subscribing and, like the video if you can. That helps the video spread on YouTube. Can I also ask you as well to comment about this issue after the video so that I can gauge whether people other than me actually know about the issue or even care? Or if you've got any questions and you don't quite understand why heat is an issue for batteries, even though I will cover this briefly at the end, feel free to just say in the comments, because I will read and reply to the comments, but actually people reply to the comments before I've had time to usually, so that's a good thing to do, I think. So the Dacia Spring has been for sale in Europe since 2021, and they didn't sell many, I don't think, at first. But last year they sold a lot more than usual, thanks to the media taking an interest in the car, because it's a good, cheap EV that people seem to just be liking. Everyone seems to like it. So last year they broke through the 140,000 total vehicles sold milestone, which is great. So 140,000 vehicles in a couple of years, that's pretty good. I mean, you could argue it's nowhere near as good as the BYD Seagull, which sold, I think it was 800,000 or 900,000 delivered to customers in the first 8 or 9 months last year. So still good, still quite a good thing, I think. So the new one for this year, 2024, comes with a great price tag of just under 19,000 euro or 16,000 British pounds. Not quite confirmed, but they've indicated that's the price point they're going for. So we kind of expect that to be the price. Dacia have been selling cars in Europe, but not in the UK until now, as apparently they were waiting for the 2023-2024 refresh version, which is now coming out. So everything but the roof is new on the car. So a completely different car to last year's car. It's a proper small hatchback. It's a cheap small hatchback, 3.72 meters long, which is a centimeter off of the Hyundai i10. So, think Ford Fiesta size, think, BYD Seagull size, maybe Honda Jazz, maybe a little bit smaller than a Honda Jazz, or, the small Mazda. Forget which one that is now, the Mazda. Is it Mazda 1? That one? I think it's roughly that sort of size. It even weighs under a ton, which I think is awesome. And even the version with the most powerful motor comes in under a ton, which I think is really good. That's great. It's pretty much this car and the BYD Seagull, everything that I think we've all been sort of waiting for and I really want. So really, really cool. A bit small, but actually fairly usable for most people as their daily driver. And, even for those people that wanted an EV, and they couldn't afford one, or they just couldn't quite stomach paying, a lot more for an EV just because they wanted an EV than they kind of wanted to. Now they can go get one, which I think is an awesome thing. People, that can sort of afford it can go get one now. So the motor either can come with a 44 horsepower setup or 64 horsepower setup, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour or 0 to 62 miles per hour. Is under 20 seconds for the slower one, 14 seconds for the less slower one. I won't say the faster one, but I think that's where it's at. I would be happy with that power for the rest of my life, I think, for going to get milk and bread and stuff. So there is even an option for a cheaper dashboard. So again, it's like they're reading my mind. Give some of these basic things, give them as an option, I think. So an option for a cheaper dashboard where you can literally not have the 10-inch infotainment screen, which is like this big. You could just have a phone holder. You pop your phone on it, charge your phone up. Great. That's a big saving of money. I do think they should add one thing as an option, which I will get to at the end. I personally think these are the things that the EV world needs, and these are EVs for ordinary people like nurses, doctors, teachers, people that work in Tesco in the UK. This is the sort of car you could go get one of these and it wouldn't break the bank. So this for me is like a big win. The interior is different as well. They've changed all the interior fabrics and the plastics, and I thought it was quite good actually beforehand, but now I think it looks even better. It can be charged at home as well from 20% to full in 11 hours if you just use a regular 240 volt, 10 amp socket, and 4 hours if you use the car's 7 kilowatt charger, like on like a 7 kilowatt charger at home on the wall. So 4 hours. So it's pretty average, isn't it? Pretty all right. So DC charging will be offered as an option and will charge up to 30 kilowatts. So 20% to 80% in 45 minutes, which is pretty decent, I think. It even comes with vehicle-to-load connectivity, but you've got to use an adapter. Not sure if that's free or if you need to buy the adapter, but that's nice to know that you can do that. It also comes with air conditioning, 14 or 15-inch wheels, depending on which one you want, rear parking sensors, speed limiter, cruise control, electric mirrors, 2 USB-C plugs, electric windows, and there will be a 2-seat cargo version, but they're not sure if that will sell in the UK. So they're not sure if they're going to bring that to the UK, which I think is pretty cool. I can totally imagine lots of people popping around doing Amazon runs and stuff like that. Like in the UK, you might know the people that sometimes run up your driveway and knock on your door and chuck you a parcel from Amazon. They drive little hatchbacks with 2 seats sometimes. So it's a great price, especially considering the fact that it starts under 5,000 British pounds less than the Citroen EC3, and it's literally half the cost of a Vauxhall Corsa electric. I know it's a different type of car, but it's not that. I mean, that's a big difference, isn't it? So pre-orders start for it on March 12th. So what's the catch? There is a catch. Feel free to pause it, put it below. I always rant on about this 2 or 3 times in the last few months, and I hate it. I hate that this is still a thing. It's incredibly bad. So again, the battery has 0 cooling on it, and they refer to having no cooling as having passive cooling. That's nothing. That's just silly. So they bolt the battery underneath and leave it to deteriorate. So the chemistry breaks down with heat, basically. So if it's 6 degrees outside in the UK, it's fine. It's not going to damage it. Especially though, if you're in a hot climate, like an actual hot climate, I don't mean warm, like 22 degrees, but if you're in Greece or the south of France or like Texas or somewhere, actually properly hot, then basically just having your car parked outside all day, your batteries are basically cooking. And the moment you use them, your car and your batteries heat up more than ambient, which can sometimes be 25, 30, 35 degrees Celsius, they're cooking, basically. If you go into the city centre and it's hot and all the heat from the sun has hit the tarmac, all that radiates up into the battery underneath the car. The battery can't do anything about it. It will just let it cook. So that is terrible. So typically, cars with, the cars like this, like the Nissan Leaf, for example, never last more than 50,000 miles when these cars are sold in very hot climates with no cooling. And then basically you see them for sale for a very cheap price, and I think people just don't really want them anymore. Sadly, because the car itself will drive really well, like a really nice car, like almost like a new car, honestly, but the batteries have just been left to cook. And it's a bad thing, I think. So they will basically spend the next 5 or 10 years being sold from owner to owner, probably. And, it's just a terrible thing. Crazy waste, I think, of resources. If you're in the UK and you're careful, you can get a Nissan Leaf to have very little capacity loss after 100,000 miles. I know someone who's done 100,000 miles in a Nissan Leaf with no cooling, and 24 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf, by the way. And I think if you're lucky and you look after it, you could do all right with that in an all right sort of climate, in a reasonable climate for batteries. But the hot weather literally just destroys the chemistry from inside the cells. So batteries need battery cooling. If you buy an electric car, you need to make sure the batteries have battery cooling. Those two things, they go hand in hand, I think. So I would argue that it's a non-negotiable. So no cooling or cooling with a fan is nowhere near good enough to cool the cells on a hot day. Neither is having liquid cooling, because liquid cooling just means that there's a better ability to extract the heat from the batteries to a radiator. But if you're just going to waft warm air over that radiator, that's nowhere near as good as using the air conditioning. Using the air conditioning is an important thing. So the only cooling that is okay when they use liquid cooling in combination with air conditioning, I think, even for Dacia Spring, which is basically Europe's cheapest EV, £16,000. That shouldn't be worth nothing in 5 or 10 years' time. That should still be a functioning car. So the BYD Seagull is for sale now with a couple of battery options. The cheap one with a 30 kilowatt hour battery has no cooling at all. The better version with a 38 kilowatt hour battery has full battery cooling with air conditioning. So this version is only literally $2,000 more expensive. So the only reason I think manufacturers are not offering this as standard is to make the car have a shorter life, intentionally, not just to save money from the factory and increase that profit margin. And they don't care if the consumer has it for 8 years and the battery's dropped to 40% in capacity. So am I alone in thinking that battery cooling should always be installed? I'll put up a poll at the same time as this video, so feel free to go to the community section and vote on it, and that will give us an idea, because you get to see the results too when you click on it, of how much people value battery cooling, because maybe I'm wrong. I haven't asked 1,000 people, but I have read the comments of a lot of people. So let's do the poll, I think. So before this gets too long, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing and feel free to use the comment section to say literally whatever you like. I read the comments every day. Thank you.